What's up, everybody? I want to podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about a quick piece of news from Tetsuya Nomura, talking about Final Fantasy VII's remake. So we talked about a week or two ago about when a potential part 2 could release, right? We talked about how, the first one, I know a lot of people have corrected me. Forgive me for my mistakes. I understand now, okay, that part 1 did not have, 50%. It had more, a lot of you guys are saying 10, maybe 20% at absolute max, right? They really cut it down, not even, some would argue, a third of what the original Final Fantasy VII was. And they also obviously took some liberties and changed some things up from the original Final Fantasy VII. But again, in that video, we talked about, well, when could the second part come out? Is it, the argument of how long do you make us wait, whether or not they're going to really go off the deep end or do, maybe bring it back, do a faithful retelling of the original. When you're playing these parts, how long are you willing to wait? Where if it's 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, and that's super stretching it out. But if it's that long, it takes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. That's a long time to tell one compact story that used to be, right? And people say Kingdom Hearts, in a way, Kingdom Hearts does that, right? You have to wait 50,000 years and you don't even get all the story yet. Now, this article talks about it covering a little bit more than 10% of the original game. Nomura has talked about that he wants the next game out ASAP. If we divide the story into larger parts, it'll take longer to make. If we divide it into more detailed, smaller sections, then developing it will be faster. I hope to release the next one ASAP. And they've also talked about how many parts. We have a general idea of how the story will play out, but we haven't decided exactly, nor can we confirm anything, says the producer. There's speculation that it will be 3 parts, but we're just doing things one step at a time. So that's a little bit of extra info there as well. So that's 2 things. One, again, to that argument, I see both sides. I think, and again, how I said it in that video too, my personal opinion would be I want these games to come out quickly. Now, I'm not somebody who's going to rush them. I'm not saying, you have to have it come out and it be completely unpolished and broken and not completed, stuff like that. No, obviously you take your time. But again, in a larger storytelling perspective, I think it makes the most sense to release these games as quickly as you possibly can, because it's trying to tell, ultimately, if you think about it, it's an episodic game. This is pretty much an episodic game. It's Final Fantasy VII's remake, but it's part 1, and we're talking about part 2, right? So it's an episodic thing. And, you see Life is Strange, you see the Telltale games, you see all these things. It's not that, right? It's not literally that. But even those games, people got very mad, and including myself, when they took forever, or when there was just a lack of communication between the company and us talking about when we would get the next one. Because ultimately, if you're telling parts of a story and it's not finished, you're going to want the next part. And I think, it kind of goes down to a bigger thing of, in my opinion, I just want to know, light release windows. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to episodic games, just tell us you're going to do them once every 3 months, or once every 2 months, or once every, whatever the schedule may be. That way I know, okay, well, this is an incomplete story, but it's obviously on purpose because it's an episodic game, and I only have to wait this long to get it. Now, for a AAA game, a game like Final Fantasy VII's Remake, which, by the way, I've played more of. I love this game. I really, really do. And like I said, I never played the original Final Fantasy VII, so this is all the very first time for me. And again, that's something you have to keep in mind as well. A lot of people are in that boat. No, I'd love to know the metrics. I'd love to know how many people are playing this game that have played the original, how many people are playing this game that haven't played the original. A couple of my friends are playing this, and they have played the original. And so, and I'm playing it, and I never have, right? And the internet's a very vast place with a lot of different people. So, again, but even with people like me, right, people that have never experienced the full story, it's even more tempting where it's well, I want to know where this is going. And even for people that have already played it, you're replaying it, but again, things are changed up a little bit. Some things are changed up a lot of bit. And so you're also thinking, okay, where is it going to go from here? So I think there's the allure of getting that next part. And again, in that video, we talked about, okay, well, when could that happen? How many parts would there be? And I think a lot of people, I think I even said 2 or 3 parts. That was my prediction. And a lot of people were saying, well, based off of the percentage that they have done of the original game in this, it would be way more. It'd be 6, 7, 8. If it's 10 to 15%, that's 7 to 9 parts, right? You could average it around there. That's a lot. And by the way, that's completely, I believe, unrealistic to ever think that Final Fantasy VII would be divided. I would even say 4 or 5 parts would be completely. If it's like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 5, is anybody like, I mean, like, think of a world like that. So. However, this Nomura stuff does provide a little bit more info on that. That firstly, I don't think I mean, that quote didn't say it. I've read other places like they do have the groundwork of this game, and we did talk about that. Remember in that video I said, well, like they have the engine, they have all the assets, right? That's the gaming term for it. They have all the assets for this game. It should be faster. We talked about like a Spider-Man game, Spider-Man on the PS4. Why is it going to take not all that long to get Spider-Man 2? Well, I think largely it's going to be, I mean, the similar, again, like assets. It'll be the similar kind of thing. Yeah, things will be upgraded, it'll look better, it'll feel better, all that kind of stuff. But generally, they have the foundation that they can make a game. Now, even that took 3 years. Is Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 going to take 3 years? I hope not. And when I hear a statement from... Now, Nomura is probably the worst person to go off of in terms of wanting things fast. With Kingdom Hearts, right, and any of that kind of stuff. Very hard to take that, just at face value. But when I do hear that, when he says he wants it out ASAP, I do get the feeling that they want these games coming out relatively soon. I mean, you do, and we've talked about it, you do have games that have released yearly, but even those games, they're different studios, right? The Assassin's Creed games, the Call of Duty games, even Battlefield was actually the wrong example. Battlefield, when they were doing it yearly, it still was basically the same team, and that's why those games got worse and worse and worse, is because they were working that team to death, right? So, but like a Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, they alternate internal teams, so really they do have 2, 3, 4 years to work on their game. It depends on which one, but normally it's like 3 years to work on it. So hearing that he wants it out ASAP, that's good news. Like when I read that, I get really excited. I think, oh my god, like, okay, well they know what's up. They know that they need to get these games out fast. It cannot be an extended release. And I know a lot of people have said, like, okay, well, do you expect it in like 2022? Are we looking for 2 years? Are we looking for 3? I really think 2 years should be the aim. Okay, now again, I'm not going to rush them. If it's not, then people may say that you're just rushing them. You just want it out fast. I mean, yeah, I do want to play the game as soon as I can, right? I mean, I don't think that's really crazy to say out loud. I don't know why people get so bent out of shape about it. But again, like I'm not going to push it out. I don't want them to push it out if it's not ready, if it's unpolished, if it's not to their standard. But again, from a larger storytelling perspective, they do need to get these games out. It's part of an overall story. You can't take 4 or 5 years to make another game. It needs to be soon. Now, again, is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? That's the other question. And again, also, this part, the director saying that there's speculation that it's only going to be 3 parts, but they're only taking it one step at a time. I think 3 parts is good. I really do. Now, the question is, if the first game was like 10 to 15%, then they have to increase that for these next games. Now, the way they could start to do that is just very basically, a lot of the talk about 7's Remake and even some of the negative stuff about 7's Remake was they crammed it with additional things, kind of to pad the game, right? They made the game like a 30, 40-hour game, but they really only used, again, 10 to 15% of the original. So what did they do? They added additional stuff, and ironically, the additional stuff is what a lot of people have the most negative to say about the game. Well, again, numbers like that are difficult to kind of like forecast going forward, but you have like 80% to go. So if you split it into 2 more parts, you got 40 and 40, then maybe you don't need to cram it so much with additional things, depending on where the story goes as well. If they change more stuff up, things can happen. And so I honestly feel like the people, all of us that bought part 1, I think we're in for like better experience. I think part 1's amazing. I think a lot of people generally really liked this first game, and I think even the people that had the criticism of it wasn't enough, or they used so little of the original game and they padded with other stuff, I think just the basic fact is they still have a majority of the game to go to retell, and they only have possibly 2 parts. Now, again, you could say, well, that's not like, it doesn't have to be. It could be 5 parts. It could be 6 parts. Again, when you really think about it, come on, think like, again, picture Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 5 on a box cover in your head, and you tell me that looks good in any way. Okay, visually, for the company's point of view, like any of that stuff, tell me that looks good. It doesn't. I think a trilogy, part 1, 2, and 3, trilogies are nice. 3 is a nice number. Trilogies are a thing. Games, movies, everybody does, right? So I think that that is probably what they're going to go for, and they kind of echoed that, right? Again, they're even speculating, basically. They even said there's speculation, so none of it's confirmed, but I think really honestly good signs from Nomura, from the director, all things Final Fantasy VII. So, guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? When do you think Part 2 will release? Are you excited to hear that, it sounds like they want to get it out, as fast as possible? How many parts do you think there'll be in all? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And if anything else breaks about Final Fantasy VII's Remake, regarding future games, regarding this game, anything like that, I'll be sure to cover it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next video.